Welcome back to the Deep Dive. And today we have a really unusual setup for you.
We really do.
Yeah, because normally we're sitting here looking at, a stack of research papers, maybe a whole book on behavioral economics or just this massive data set.
Right.
But today, our source material is literally a single sentence.
Just one.
It's an excerpt title, and I'm just going to read it to you verbatim right now.
Mm.
It goes, "The Architecture of Digital and Physical Addiction. The Dark Psychology of Casino Architecture and Social Media."
And that's it?
That is it. That's the entire source we are working with today.
Which sounds crazy at first.
It does. But the mission for this deep dive is to take this one incredibly dense sentence and treat it like a philosophical and conceptual roadmap.
Exactly.
Because there is so much packed into those few words. We're going to unpack the mechanics, the neurochemistry, and the spatial design implied in this phrase to really understand how modern environments are engineered to capture your attention.
It's a remarkably dense phrase, and it really forces you to look at the connective tissue between disciplines that people usually treat as completely separate. You've got urban planning and interior design over here in the physical world, and then UI and UX software engineering over in the digital world.
Right. Usually those people don't even talk to each other.
They don't. But connecting them through the lens of behavioral psychology is a really precise way to look at how human attention is managed today.
So we are going to stretch this concept out. We are breaking down every single word and concept here so thoroughly that, frankly, you will never look at your phone or a physical building the same way again.
It really is a perspective shift.
Okay, let's unpack this. And I want to start by zeroing in on the very first word of the title, architecture.
A very deliberate choice of words.
Exactly. Because if you're looking at how people interact with technology or physical spaces, the author could have used a word like cause or origin or, the nature of digital addiction.
More environment.
Environment, yes. But using the word architecture completely changes the framing.
It implies blueprints.
Yes. Blueprints, wireframes, focus groups. It implies that the behavior we're looking at isn't an accident.
Right. And in the context of behavioral design, architecture is about creating a structured environment where the path of least resistance naturally aligns with the designer's goal.
I love that. Path of least resistance.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, think about organic habits. Those are adaptations you make to your environment just to survive or be efficient.
Like finding the quickest way to walk to the grocery store.
Exactly. It's like a dirt path that naturally forms over time because people take a shortcut across a park.
Oh, right, a desire path.
Yes. But when we talk about architected behavior, we're talking about an environment specifically constructed to shape your habits. It's the difference between that organic dirt path versus a paved walkway designed by a city planner to route your foot traffic past a very specific row of storefronts.
So it's the intentionality.
Precisely. Architecture traditionally means providing shelter for the body. But here, the space, whether physical or digital, is being designed to house not just your body, but your attention.
Okay, let me try an analogy here to see if I'm tracking this.
Go for it.
So imagine you're out walking in the woods and you fall into a sinkhole.
Okay.
That's a trap, right? You're stuck. But it's a naturally occurring trap. It just happened. Nobody planned it.
Nature didn't conspire against you.
Right. But if you walk into a maze, a literal hedge maze, and you get lost, that's an architected trap.
Yes.
Someone sat down with a piece of paper, drew out the dead ends, planted the bushes, and said, "I'm going to confuse whoever walks in here." That's the architecture part.
That is a perfect analogy. The author's use of architecture here points directly to that level of intentionality. The physical casino and the digital app are both built environments. They aren't passive spaces. They are active behavioral modifiers.
So for you listening to this right now, just take a second and look around the room you're currently in. Seriously, look at it.
Look at the doors, the lighting.
Yeah. How is the architecture of your current space dictating your behavior right now? Are you sitting in a chair facing a window? Is the lighting making you sleepy? Every space directs human action.
It makes the abstract concept of architected behavior immediate and tangible.
It really does. But let me play devil's advocate for a second here.
Sure.
If I'm designing an app or even a building, my goal is obviously to make it a pleasant, seamless experience for the user.
Of course.
So if I design a digital interface that is just so smooth and intuitive that someone wants to stay on it, isn't that just good product design? Where do we draw the line between good UX and, architecting addiction?
That is the core debate in modern design, and it really comes down to the concept of user agency and what we call the friction-to-flow ratio.
Friction to flow. Okay, explain that.
Good UX removes friction so a user can accomplish their intended goal efficiently.
Their goal, not the app's goal.
Right. Think about the interface of a digital thermostat in your house or a mobile banking app.
Oh, yeah. I want to get in and out of my banking app as fast as humanly possible.
Exactly. The architecture is designed to get you in, let you transfer funds or pay a bill with zero confusion, and get you out. That's utility.
Okay.
When the architecture shifts toward what this source text is pointing at, the goal isn't utility anymore. The goal is retention. The architecture is removing friction not to help you finish a task, but to prevent you from leaving the environment.
Wow.
It actually bypasses the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for executive function and goal-directed behavior, and it targets the basal ganglia, which is where your habit loops are formed.
So it's the difference between an architect building a really efficient exit door
Yeah.
versus an architect building a hallway that seamlessly just curves right back into the center of the building.
Without you even realizing you've turned around.
Which brings us to the first massive comparison in the title: physical addiction and casino architecture.
The physical realm of dark psychology.
Right. Because the source gives us no specific data points, we kind of have to theoretically analyze what casino architecture represents in our cultural zeitgeist.
It's the ultimate engineered environment.
We all know the old tropes, right? Casinos don't have clocks, they don't have
Yeah.
windows, but I feel like everyone knows that already. What is the actual structural psychology behind how a modern physical casino is built?
Well, the no clocks thing is almost quaint now compared to how sophisticated environmental psychology has become.
Really?
Oh, yeah. If you look at the evolution of casino design, you see a massive shift from what was called the maze layout to the playground layout.
The maze layout. That sounds exactly like what I was talking about earlier.
It is. Back in the day, the Bill Friedman model of casino design dictated that you create a literal labyrinth.
Okay.
Low ceilings, tight aisles, really confusing sightlines. The idea was to physically disorient the patron so they couldn't find the exit.
So they would just bump into a slot machine and give up and start playing.
Exactly. But they found a major flaw in that architecture.
Which is,
Human beings actually hate feeling trapped.
well, yeah.
It elevates cortisol, it creates anxiety, and an anxious person eventually overrides their habit loop and just leaves. The friction of the maze becomes too unpleasant.
So they changed the blueprints.
Dramatically. A designer named Roger Thomas pioneered the playground concept, and that is what you see in the highest grossing resorts today.
How is it different?
It's the exact opposite of the maze. High ceilings, beautiful statuary, natural light filtering in from skylights, very clear sightlines.
It doesn't look like a trap at all.
It feels luxurious, it feels open and relaxing, but the architecture is actually far more insidious because it completely lowers your psychological defenses.
Wow.
It creates a state of physical relaxation while simultaneously using predictive architecture to guide your movement.
Predictive architecture. Give me an example of that.
The pathways. In a modern casino, the main walkways are almost always curved. It's often referred to as the Friedman curve, though ironically it was adapted for this new playground model.
Why is curves?
Because human beings naturally veer towards sweeping curves rather than sharp 90-degree angles. If you hit a sharp corner, you have to make a conscious decision to turn left or right. That requires the prefrontal cortex.
It's stopping cue.
Exactly. A curve removes that decision-making friction. You are being gently contoured deeper into the gaming floor without ever feeling like you're being forced.
That makes so much sense. You don't realize you're being guided if the path feels natural and comfortable.
It's friction removal at a spatial level.
Think about a bus stop bench. Those things are made of hard metal. They usually have armrests right in the middle so you can't lie down.
Hostile architecture.
Right. The architecture of a bus stop bench is applying friction to say, do not stay here. But the casino, the chair at a high-end slot machine, is probably more ergonomic than my office chair.
It absolutely is. They study the specific ergonomics of those chairs, pitching them perfectly to reduce lumbar strain over a 4-hour period.
Oh, for hours.
Because that's what's required to achieve what's called the machine zone.
The machine zone. I've heard this term in studies about gambling addiction.
Yes, Natasha Dow-Scholl's work on this is foundational. In her research on addiction by design, she found that for heavy machine gamblers, the actual jackpot is sometimes an annoyance.
Wait, really? Winning is annoying.
Yes. Because it stops the game, it draws attention from waitstaff, it breaks the rhythm.
Oh, wow.
What the architecture of the machine and the surrounding floor is designed to induce is that continuous, uninterrupted machine zone, a trance state where the rest of the world just drops away.
Time disappears.
Exactly. And to achieve that, every sensory input has to be aggressively calibrated to the reward system.
Let's talk about those sensory inputs, like the sounds.
The auditory engineering is wild. The sound design of a casino floor is heavily regulated. The machines are tuned to specific musical keys.
You're kidding.
No, usually C major. Because it's universally perceived as pleasant and continuous, you never hear harsh, discordant tones when someone loses. The auditory architecture creates this seamless blanket of ambient optimism.
Ambient optimism. That is such a chilling phrase. And this perfectly bridges the gap to the second half of the comparison.
Social media.
Yes. Here's where it gets really interesting, because the core thesis here is that the smartphone screen is the modern equivalent of that physical casino floor.
It's the exact same architecture, just digitized.
Right. And I literally had this happen to me. Not in a physical casino, but on my phone.
Let's hear it.
So last night, I opened the short-form video app.
My only goal, my prefrontal cortex goal, was just to check a message from a friend.
A simple utility task.
Exactly. I go in, I respond to the message, but then right underneath the message, a video just autoplayed.
No click required.
Zero friction. And it was some guy restoring a rusty medieval axe.
Yeah.
Now, I don't care about medieval weaponry. I have never searched for medieval weaponry in my life.
But you watched it.
I sat there for 45 minutes.
Wow.
The transition from the message to the video was so frictionless, and the visual pacing of the rust being polished away was so rhythmic. I was completely in that digital machine zone. You lost time.
I totally lost time. How did the digital architects port the physical casino into a flat piece of glass? What is the invisible architecture there?
Well, physical architecture uses walls, lights, and spatial layout, right?
Right.
Digital architecture uses user interfaces, algorithms, and notification systems. And it works by understanding that digital architecture isn't about physical space at all. It's about cognitive load and dopamine prediction error.
Dopamine prediction error. Let's break that down. But first, let's look at the actual UI. The analogy is just too perfect.
It really is.
Let's compare them side by side. The slot machine lever. In the physical world, you pull a physical lever. What is the digital equivalent?
The pull to refresh swipe on a social media feed.
It's the exact same motion.
It is literally the same mechanical action, yielding the exact same psychological result. Both rely on intermittent variable rewards.
Like B.F. Skinner's operant conditioning boxes.
Exactly. If you put an animal in a box and it presses a lever and gets a food pellet every single time.
He only presses it when it's hungry.
Right. It's predictable.
Yeah.
But if the animal presses the lever and gets a pellet randomly, sometimes nothing, sometimes one, sometimes a massive handful, they will press that lever obsessively, even to the point of exhaustion.
Because the brain is trying to solve the pattern.
Yes. That's the dopamine prediction error. People think dopamine is just the pleasure chemical. It's not. It's the seeking chemical.
It spikes in anticipation.
Exactly. It spikes in anticipation of a reward. When the reward is unpredictable, the dopamine system goes into absolute overdrive trying to map the probability. Social media algorithms have weaponized this at an unprecedented scale.
So when I swipe to the next video or pull to refresh my feed,
Yeah.
I am pulling the slot machine lever.
You are pulling the lever. Most of the content is mediocre. That's an empty pull.
I'll lose.
But every few swipes, you hit a piece of content that perfectly aligns with your interests or makes you laugh out loud or outrages you.
That's the jackpot.
That is the jackpot.
And let's look at another analogy. We talked about the lack of windows in a casino to hide the passage of time. What's the digital equivalent of no windows?
The infinite scroll.
The infinite scroll. You mentioned earlier that human beings hate hitting corners, so casinos use curved walkways to remove stopping cues.
Autoplay and infinite scroll are the digital curved pathways.
It completely eliminates stopping cues.
Oh.
But it's taking it even a step further than just saying it doesn't end. It's about the microfrictions.
What do you mean?
It's not just that the content keeps loading, it's that the app preloads the next video in the background, so there isn't even a millisecond of buffer time.
Latency is the enemy of the machine zone.
Right.
Yeah.
If there was just a 2-second loading wheel, a little spinning circle between videos, my prefrontal cortex might have just enough time to wake up and say, hey, you have emails to write, close the app.
Exactly. The latency is engineered completely out of existence. But what's wild is that the algorithm powering all of this isn't static.
Right. A physical slot machine has a fixed mathematical probability programmed into its computer chip.
It's a blunt instrument. It has to appeal to the median demographic walking the casino floor.
But the digital architecture.
The digital architecture uses multi-armed bandit algorithms. It is constantly A/B testing your specific responses in real time.
So it's watching me watch it.
Yes. If you linger on that medieval axe video for 1.4 seconds longer than you lingered on a comedy video, the architecture of your feed instantly shifts.
Just based on 1.4 seconds.
It knows that right now, in this mood, you prioritize tactile, process-oriented videos. It builds a bespoke casino floor just for you in real time.
That bespoke nature is crucial. It tracks your dwell time, your tap velocity.
It even tracks the time of day you are most likely to doom scroll. If the data shows that your willpower is lowest at 11:44 p.m. on a Thursday,
Which it probably is.
that is exactly when the push notification architecture is designed to ping you with a high arousal piece of content.
That is terrifying. And for you listening, I'm sure you know exactly that feeling. When you've been strolling for 20 minutes and you suddenly snap out of it and think, how did I get here?
And it's so important to realize that this isn't a lack of willpower on your part.
It's not a moral failing.
Not at all. It is a successful execution of digital architecture. Your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do when presented with these specific stimuli.
Which segues perfectly into the final and probably the most provocative component of our single-sentence source material.
Dark psychology.
Dark psychology. We've defined the architecture, we've mapped the casinos and the social media, but the source explicitly labels the psychology driving all of this as dark.
Which is an intense word to use.
It is, because in behavioral science, psychology itself is completely neutral, right? It's just the study of how the mind works. Operant conditioning is just a mechanism. So what makes this specific application dark?
It comes down to intent versus outcome.
Explain that.
Well, dark psychology implies that these principles of human behavior are being used not to help the user, but to exploit them.
To exploit them for engagement or profit.
Exactly. Take human vulnerabilities, like our response to bright colors. When you see a notification badge, that little red dot with a number in it, the color red isn't just an arbitrary aesthetic design choice.
They didn't just pick it because it looks pretty.
No. In human evolutionary biology, red is a high arousal color. It signals danger or ripe fruit or blood.
Things you need to pay attention to immediately to survive.
It demands immediate visual triage. The architects know this.
And it creates an open loop in your brain, doesn't it? You see the number 3 inside that red circle, and your brain cannot close that cognitive loop until you click it to see what those 3 things are.
Even if you know logically, it's probably just a map telling you someone you vaguely know from high school posted a photo.
Right. The biological urge to clear the notification, to extinguish that red warning light, is overwhelming.
It's a manipulation of your biology.
And I would argue it's dark because it leverages our deepest evolutionary needs against us.
Yeah.
Take social validation.
Oh, this is a big one.
Humans are tribal primates. For hundreds of thousands of years, our survival depended literally on not being exiled from the tribe.
If you were alone, you died.
Right. If the tribe didn't like you, you were cast out, you starved, or you were eaten. So we have this highly sensitive, hardwired radar for social approval.
We need to know where we stand.
Yes. What social media architecture did was quantify that survival metric.
It digitized Dunbar's number.
Exactly. It took the ambiguous gut feeling of, does my tribe accept me? And turned it into an exact, highly visible metric, 412 likes, 14 comments.
20 retweets.
And by doing that, it completely hijacked the survival circuitry of the brain. The architecture makes you feel like your social survival is constantly being updated in real time.
And that is dark psychology.
Taking a biological necessity, human connection,
Yeah.
and routing it through an engagement-maximizing casino.
What's really fascinating here is the escalation. The author's linkage of casinos and social media under this umbrella of dark psychology suggests a really chilling evolution.
An escalation of addiction.
Think about the asymmetry of power. You have a user looking at their phone, relying on their single individual prefrontal cortex to manage their attention and resist temptation.
Just one tired human brain.
Right. On the other side of that glass screen, you have thousands of software engineers, behavioral psychologists, and supercomputers running predictive models.
All optimized to keep that user's eyes on the screen.
It is a completely uneven match. And historically, physical addictions to substances or places like a casino had physical barriers.
The geography was the friction.
Precisely. Casinos require you to travel to them. You have to put on shoes, get in a car, drive there.
And you could physically leave. You could walk out the door, step into the sunlight, and break the spell. The environment was contained.
Yes. But a digital addiction built on this dark psychology is omnipresent.
The casino is in your pocket.
It's in your pocket, it's buzzing on your wrist, and increasingly with spatial computing and AR headsets, it will literally be the lens through which you view the physical world itself.
Oh, man.
The barrier between physical and digital architecture is collapsing as we speak. We are moving toward environments where the room you are sitting in and the interface you are looking at are integrated.
Meaning the behavioral nudges will be environmental and digital simultaneously.
It's the ultimate frictionless environment.
If the casino is everywhere, there is no outside to escape to.
Exactly.
So, bringing it all together, what does this all mean?
Well, the sweeping summary of our conceptual journey today is this. The source material we started with, as brief as it was, reveals a world where the spaces we inhabit are intensely designed.
Intensely and sometimes aggressively designed.
Both on our phones and in our cities. They are built to hack our deepest psychological impulses. The systems we interact with every day are not passive tools just waiting for our command.
They are proactive architectures designed to manage our behavior.
And understanding the blueprints of that architecture is really the only way to navigate it effectively.
You can't unbuild it.
No, you can't dismantle the casino.
Oh.
But if you recognize the floor plan, you can consciously choose where to walk.
I love that.
You can recognize that the infinite scroll isn't a natural state of information flow. It's a constructed hallway without doors.
You can recognize that the red notification badge is a manufactured urgency, not a biological imperative. And that is exactly where we want to leave you today.
Oh, a little something to mull over.
Yeah. Now that you understand that both physical spaces and digital apps possess this intentional architecture built on human psychology, how are you going to navigate the world tomorrow?
It changes everything.
Here is my challenge to you. Identify one architectural element on your favorite social media app today.
Just one.
Look at the shape of the buttons, the latency of the load times, the way the feed refreshes, and ask yourself, is this designed for my benefit to help me accomplish a goal? Or is this dark psychology trying to keep me in the casino?
Once you start seeing the blueprints, you never look at the building the same way again.
You really don't. Thank you so much for joining us on this massive conceptual deep dive today. We wish you the best of luck in navigating your newly illuminated digital and physical worlds. We'll catch you on the next one.